So, very good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday to all of you. My name is Sudhir Kumar, Ambassador of Change with Global Education and Training Institute. Today, we have a very eminent guest with us, Ms. Poonam Kamdar. She is a counseling psychologist in New Delhi and a very prominent name in the field of education across Delhi NCR. She has been associated with several schools and been training and guiding the students from across India. So today she's going to talk about the effective communication skills. So let's hear from the very well-known Ms. Poonam Kamdar. So very welcome, ma'am, on our platform today.
Thank you so much, Sudhir. And today's topic, which has been selected, that is effective communication skills. It is not only applicable, not only required by the school students, teachers, rather every person should be aware of this thing and should try to develop or make their develop in such a way so that their communication becomes effective. Why I talk about communication should be effective. Can I have the slide, Sudhir? uh,
Sure,
you
ma'am.
know communication, what if anyone can talk very confidently with everyone in and around? What if if everyone can understand what you all are saying, and they're getting the exact message that you are giving to them? Or not only that, you can make very good friends. You can enhance your relationships, develop very very good relationship with people, and effortlessly express your ideas in front of the audience. So, keeping all these simple things in mind, if I say the role of effective communication is very important. Now, if I say that, you may be wondering that why communication is to be learned. I very clearly say that communication it is an art. You have you learn the skills to drive, or you learn computer literacy skills, or maybe how to ride a bicycle. These are certain skills I have focused upon. Now, if I say communication is skill, I mean to say that yes, it is an art that you have to learn, and if you're willing to work on it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life. So, if I talk about the topic, it is very apt and important for everyone over here. Now, five parts we are going to talk about when I'm talking about effective communication skills: the meaning of it, why it is required, how and in what ways, and then what are the barriers. So the sequence is not going to be the same here and there, but these are the broad pointers that I'm going to talk about. Next slide, please. Now, if I say what is effective communication, you know, in a layman's term, if I'm talking to you and it reaches you exactly in the same way I'm sharing it with you, that means my communication is effective. Now, I'm when I'm saying I'm the messenger over here, and you all are those who are listening to me, you are the recipients. So from it is basically exchange of information, or reaching out of the sending the information from the messenger to the recipient, and then there is a medium. So three things are important over here: the messenger, the medium via which it is communicating, and the recipient, the receiver of the message. Now, if I talk about the messenger part, yes, the information, if I'm sharing with you in a very clear, crisp manner, it will be well received by you. And when it is well received by you, for that we need certain mediums. Like whether I'm speaking to you right now, I'm speaking, you can listen to me, you can see me talking to you. So a bit of my body language that I'm going to talk about will also be focused here. Then communication can be in a written form as well, via a video, via a picture, a graph. There are a lot of other ways, or maybe when I'm writing an email, I'm not present there, but my mail will explain a lot of things and share a lot of things and if I have written it well, it will communicate, and then it will be understood well by the recipient. And here the recipient is, if he has understood the information well, that means my communication has been effective. Now, if in day-to-day situation, you say, let's take an example of the classroom situation and a teacher. The teacher has come prepared with a lesson, a chapter that she plans to disseminate in front of her children, students rather. So she's writing the things on the board, explaining as well, asking questions in between, paying attention to by the facial expressions of the students whether they have understood or not, eliciting questions in between, asking something or making accepting responses from them, and then clarifying the things in all. And by the end, again, it's judging by summarizing what she has said or asking one of the students to summarize. I think if everything goes on in the right way, that means the communication has been very effective. The child has gained, the student has gained the information, and the teacher has successfully communicated and delivered the message, whatever she has planned for that time. So this is what communication, what part of the definition of part of the communication goes in. Now, if I have a look at the slide which was shown to you all earlier, why? What is the importance of communication? Why do we need it at all? मतलब इसकी क्या हमें जरूरत क्या पड़ती है, इफेक्टिव अगर नहीं भी है तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है? You know, when a work is done well, a task is done well, it has been communicated well, means like most of your work is has been taken a good shape, and it can move around very smoothly. The first step is to communicate with others. It not only helps you in your professional life, it helps in your social life and personal life also. If I talk about the communication related to a personal life, if I have good relations with my relatives, I'm able to tell them very clearly about the things that I expect from them, and the message I'm communicating in a very very elaborate and in clear terms. I think my relationship over the years will groom up, and it will have a very good way. But in case there is a communication gap, maybe by my body language or by my verbal communication, then my relationship will take a back seat and people may not like to interact with me. So, I mean, they will try to avoid me. So, communication plays a very important role in the personal life as well. In the job front, if I say, if I'm talking to my and sharing with my colleagues, it's very very important that when I'm sharing with my colleagues, I'm in oral form as well as in written form, I'm communicating very effectively, and that enhances the productivity of the organization. A very good work culture is developed, a good school climate is a school of organizational climate is created, where everyone is happy and they know that we have this kind of a channel of communication, this way of communication, and we unnecessary problems do not crop in or miscommunication does not take place. So it helps. It's a win-win situation for the seniors, juniors, everyone who are associated with the organization. Now, when I talk about the importance, one more point that comes to my mind is the rapport formation, which is very important. Rapport formation with within the organization, in the school situation also, otherwise also. If my communication is apt, my rapport is well developed and established, people will like me. My organization people will appreciate me for how I am handling the situation within my organization. Now, if I have a look at the other points that I've mentioned over there, the barriers in communication. Communication by itself, it has lot of barriers. Now, if I say about the barriers, means like the loopholes when I'm communicating, and I'm trying to come. My message is very clear, crisp. Everything is there. I've taken care of every possible thing to make it reachable to the people. And make it very effective. But then sometimes what happens is over there, some problems come in. We call them as barriers in communication. By barrier, I mean to say something which is hindering or affecting the communication, the effectiveness of communication. So in that case, first the question that comes to our mind is what could be these barriers? First of all, if I talk about the barrier, it can be environmental barrier. Let's say if there is a construction work going on within my nearby area, that part is going to create a lot of noise, or maybe there is some jagaran which has been scheduled at around 10:30 in the morning hours. So my communication will, there will be some sort of noise distraction which is going to create a hindrance over in understanding what the other person is trying to communicate to you. But then there can be more barriers over here, not only just the noise, otherwise also something, two three people doing the things in the same at the same time at the same place, so there is a confusion over there. So loud sounds, activities of the people in and around our areas, interruptions, or maybe when another very important barrier here is physical discomfort. Let's say if I'm talking to you all and sharing information on effectiveness of communication, but then my in and around, I mean, where I'm sitting, the seat is not comfortable. I'm making a movement here and there, or my table or my laptop is, I mean, not it's not placed properly. At the back of the mind, I'll have always this fear: what if this happens? I mean, if something which is not appropriate takes place, by chance my laptop tumbles down, what will happen? So these things will be considered under environmental barriers. Then we have certain physiological barriers also. Like it is basically, you can say that if I have some sort of, if I'm hard of hearing, or there is some problem in my hearing part, or if I can't read from nearby, so I mean, I need glasses, but my glasses are not there with me. So these physiological barriers also, or some sort of illness because of which I'm not able to concentrate. I have to put in a lot of energy to understand and to share. So that can also act as a barrier over there. Then we have language barriers as well. Different languages, I don't understand a particular language, and the person is communicating in that language, though by body language and everything it's sounding and looking very effective and good, but then I'm not understanding anything. So my again my communication will be severely hampered in this case. Then we see that personal barrier, there's certain personal barriers also, personal values, like my own values that I hold, or my personal health, that is not at times very important. Then socio-economic condition of the people where they're living and all. So these things also, they form a part of the personal barriers. Most important here is the psychological barrier, which generally most of us are not aware of it, or rather we don't pay much attention to it. That is stress, frustration, anger. I'm very tired, but then still I have to communicate, or maybe I'm distracted, and I'm preoccupied with a lot of work. So all these things in totality will definitely create a lot of problems when my communication part is concerned over here. Now, if I have a look at the other part of this thing, apart from the barrier, the next part comes in how to communicate, and how to make the communication effective, and what are the forms in which the communication can be made effective. Please, next slide, please. So, how effective communication skills helps us, I've already discussed. Next slide. Communication is required in each and every sphere of our life, and the we cannot forego, we cannot just leave the things as it is when it comes to communication. Next, please, after the barriers. Now, I'll give you an example in the meantime. Next to this, the yes, we have the types of communication. I'll give you an example from here. Very recently, one of the students in my counseling case, as a part of the counseling case, he shared with me an example. He said that, ma'am, communication, it was not about communication. He said that, ma'am, in my school, there is, I'll not name the school, in my school, there are certain group of students who come to me, and they ask certain simple things, but when they approach me, I feel scared because they are so tall, and they try to almost overpower me by, like, almost bending down on me. So I feel very uneasy, very uncomfortable. So this is an example of non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication, which can actually make or mar our entire conversation. If I'm looking good, I should speak well as well. If I'm saying something, it should be very much inherent in my via my body language. Like if I'm saying to my student as a teacher that very good, you have done well. But if I said that like this, very good, you have done well, see, you can make out the difference because our tone matters a lot the way we communicate. So, communication can be verbal and non verbal, as mentioned in this slide. And verbal is when I'm speaking to you, that is the thing. But the rest of the part, how I'm speaking, my entire body language, the movement, whether I'm using my hands, whether my eyes, how they're moving, in which direction are they moving, and the way I'm being seated, everything will form a part of the non-verbal communication. And this non-verbal communication, which is body language, it is basically the way we sit, we say, we stand. We don't say, but yes, we stand. My facial expressions and how my entire overall, I must say, the body expressions will make up this part of the non-verbal communication. And here silence is also a type of communication. I must say I'll include it in non-verbal communication only. A long silence by itself speaks volumes. Remember your old school days, those the teachers, those who are being seated here, and even the students, the recent time period when their teacher was angry with you and she had a long silence. वो लंबी जो चुप्पी थी, उसके पीछे क्या है? वो जिस तूफान का की हमें आशंका हो रही है, तो वो कब आएगा, उसके बारे में जो हमारी एंग्जाइटी बढ़ती है, that is all the silence communicates very well about. So silence is something is going under the water, and I have to be very careful about all these things. Then eye contact, it is very important to have to for the communication to be effective. As a teacher, if I'm talking to my students, let there be 40 students at one go. Fine, but my eyes should be noting each and every student as and when I'm speaking. I'm making close eye contact with majority of the students at most of the time, and try to have it in rounds with everyone, because that way the student knows very well that my teacher is here and her eyes are set on me. Not only that, if I say that eye contact when she's writing something on the board while turning, right now though we have online classes, but otherwise when she's turning down writing something on the board, have a look and see what you actually, how much they have understood, how many of them are actually paying attention, smiling if they have answered something well, and by your doing like this will explain and give them a very good idea about that, yes, my teacher is liking it. Leaning forward if you're liking, and nodding yes, so we are moving in the same direction. This is how you can communicate very well. And verbal communication is also when I'm speaking something, my rudeness in my language, how I'm communicating is very well is shown when I am talking to my children or students, or with anyone for that matter. I have to be very careful about the tone part as well. And content of verbal communication, I'll cover up this after the next slide. Yes, next slide please. I have a question in the meantime. How many of you think, just share with me, maybe if it is possible via the chat, that how many of you feel that verbal communication is more important, verbal component of communication is important as compared to non-verbal? Or rather, what is the percentage, if I talk in terms of percentage, what is the role of verbal component in communication? Is it 100%? Is it 75%, 50%, or less than 25%? Just think about it, because as far as I know, when I was a student, when I was even when I was doing like a graduation, I was not aware that what role non-verbal communication plays in our life. Next slide, please. So, if I talk about this, what is the role of the comic? Next slide, Sudhi. Yes, you'll have a look at this slide. Body language, it has 55% effect. The way you speak, tone, it has 38% impact, and your words, it has 7% impact on the communication. So the majority of the part chunk of, if you see this circle has been taken by body language. So be very careful. The implication is be very careful when we are talking to other people, because they are understanding or they're seeing the efficacy of the communication via your body language mostly. And then how you are speaking, in which tone you are speaking, that forms the next part of the communication. And words, yes, it is important, it's not that it's not important, but but then it is only 7% weightage is given to the words that we speak. Next slide, please. Now, if now, how we communicate effectively. First of all, I would like to share the 7 C's of effective communication. That is completeness, conciseness, consideration, clarity, concreteness, and courtesy. Most of the time when I'm talking about completeness, me and completeness and concreteness, in a way I would like to merge it a bit. Your communication should be, whatever you plan to tell them or share with the people, it should be very clear, crisp, and complete, or complete by itself. It should not be an incomplete sort of a communication where you are just leaving out saying half of the things and leaving the half just to them so that they can just assume the things and all. No, that is not effective communication. And then clarity is very important. What you exactly want to say, what you want to tell them, that should be very clear. Now when I say consideration, it basically means stepping into the other person's shoes. Means, like, if the teacher is trying to communicate, consider what your children, you know the children, what is the need and requirement of theirs, and then their viewpoint, their background from which they have come, their mindset, and their educational level. All 40 students are not the same, so you have to, if you want to make your communication effective with them, so understand the psyche of each and every child, and consider that part, and then begin with your communication. Then it is again of prominent importance when we say that communication should begin with courtesy. I mean, there should be mutual respect, communication that inspires, encourages others to do their best. That is very important. It is not that we are just communicating and we are shouting in the process of maybe teaching or sharing. At times it happens with the parents also. When we follow effect authoritarian style of parenting, which is actually in today's scenario, it is not at all applicable. So what happens is I'm just shouting, shouting, shouting. My children may do it. They may do it because they see there is no choice, and they don't want to have a very bad environment within the house. So they may accept it, do it in a monotonous way. But the thing is, that is not effectiveness. Respect, encourage, and give that much of respect to the children as an individual human being, and then communicate. Your work will be, actually your message will be very well accepted by the group, rather than just forcing it down against them. Then now, if I talk about more about the correctness of what I'm communicating, that I mean, correct information should be communicated through the message, because when you share correct information, it boosts the confidence level of the sender, you as the sender, and it has a great impact on the audience. See that what you're speaking, it has free of the grammatical errors, and you're using the proper pauses in between, and you have the accurate facts what you're planning to share. So this is very important if you want to make your communication very, very effective. Now, if I say that language that is simple and easily understood, the first pointer, and listen actively. I mean, there is a difference between listening actively and hearing. You know, Hearing is just, I'm not processing it, I'm just hearing it. But when I'm listening actively, I'm allowing the information to be intelligently processed and reaching, accepting what I need, and letting the rest of the part filter down. Now, we have certain techniques of active listening. Here we have, if I'll say, the three most important techniques are paraphrasing, summarizing, and questioning. Like, paraphrasing is like I'm restating whatever has been said in my own words. I'm just let's say, okay, you mean to say this thing, this is how I will do it, and the person has nodded, means that is acceptable. Then summarizing whatever has been shared means like putting down the main points in front of the people. So that gives them a very good understanding of what has been communicated. In most of the sessions and workshops, I see this kind of pointer information or summarization, summary points are shared with the audience once the session is over. That helps in communicating, making this or strengthening the communication part. Then questioning is again of very much importance. Yeah, means like it helps the other person to think and be there present mentally, not just physically, and it enhances the understanding of the person as well. But then sometimes what happens is, yeah, when I'm just listening and not, I'm sorry, I'm hearing and not listening, what happens is the quality of communication is severely hampered. So ensure that you're listening actively and not just hearing. Using a feedback in communication, it's one of the very important tips for effective communication. I mean, I'm saying, speaking, of course, I'm getting I'm looking at the body language of the other person also. But then if someone gives me a feedback, I'll come to know that yes, these are my limitations, I need to rectify, I need to improvise upon, and make my communication all the more effective. So take feedbacks in between, in so that you know that you are moving in the right track. Non-verbal communication I've already shared. Then be aware of the feelings and emotions of the other person. See if they're yawning in between, question them, ask them, means like your lecture is becoming a bit monotonous or dragging in between, so throw in a joke here and there. That will lighten up the entire moment, and people will be more attentive the next this thing, and they look forward to such very short breaks in between. Do not jump into the conclusions, clarify. Take some time out to clarify the pointers that has been shared in between, not to adhere to certain non-acceptable ways like swearing in between or shouting. That severely affects the quality of the communication. Summarizing, I have already shared it here with you. Next slide, please. So these are certain tips that I have shared with you all, which is very important, and which will help you in doing the things in a better way, in communicating in a better way, in understanding people, what they plan to say, what they plan to share, and keeping in mind the tone that you are using. Because if you can communicate very well, you can get by. Rather, if you can just communicate, you can get by. But if you communicate skillfully, you can actually work miracles, which is very important for each one of us to sustain in the world of communication, where everything is to be communicated effectively if we really want to get the best out of everything. So effective communication, it requires not just the exchange of ideas, but when done right, it fosters understanding, strengthens relationships, and improves teamwork and builds the trust. It's very important that we keep a check on the way we communicate with each others and with ourselves, because ultimately determines the quality of our lives. Thank you so much. Uh, the questions were Mr. Sudeep.
Thank you so much for sharing such wonderful insights about the effective communication. And indeed, these are some great points which we overlook lot many times. And in the online communication and in the online teaching, these ways actually prove to be very effective and very efficient. So one question is, I have from you is, ma'am, like when we try to communicate our students in online classes, right? So sometimes they seem disinterested, and sometimes we cannot grab the attention as well, like the way we can do in the physical classroom. So what would be the best way you can recommend to the teachers and the schools, school authorities, by which they can actually grab their attention effectively?
Okay, yes, it's a very good question and very practical in today's scenario. First of all, see, understand that online classes, they do have certain limitations. They are actually not a substitute of offline classes. But then, keeping the today's scenario, we are left with no choice, and this is the best thing that we can offer to our students. Now, here what happens is some of the students are disinterested, and in the classroom also the situation always took place where you have handful of students who are not paying attention because they are dependent on their tuitions. They're actually not interested in the subject, or for other reasons best known to them. Now, here in this case, what the teachers have been doing, in fact, I must say, and they can, those who are not doing, they can try it out. First of all, they may tell the students clearly that I may unmute anyone in between and ask the question related to the topic. So, certain amount of onus will be on the child or the students, where they will know that there is someone at the back who's going to ask me questions. Another thing is, some schools, what they have done is they have two teachers. One teacher is teaching, the other one is actually doing the monitoring part. So she's keeping a check on how they are doing, what they are doing here. Or not having a very long class, having a small break in between of maybe 1 minute, where you are just trying to grab the attention of everyone, or by everyone I mean to say, just saying a joke here, or showing something very interesting which is not related to that subject, but something that can pep up the students very well. And these things really help. And another suggestion that I have here in this case here is that you show something on the slide and ask randomly ask a particular roll number to answer that. So that way it will make the rest of the students also be on the alert mode. And then taking the help of the parents in this way of communication, it will give you very good results. Any
Thank
other?
you so much, ma'am, for answering the question on this topic. And one more thing which we often, face is the hierarchy of the conversation. What to speak and whom to speak at what time. The kind of conversation which we have. So it is very important to understand what to speak and what not to speak in in front of certain people, right? So, what do you want to tell us about the hierarchy of communication?
See, when what to speak, one has to be really judiciously using the words that they are using, they're using with people in and around. Let's talk about an adult, for example. I mean, if they are talking to their colleagues, they have to be clear about what they are saying. No harsh jokes in between. Something you have to give the respect to the ladies. What you're talking with your male counterpart, you have to be very clear about it, because that will not be socially acceptable. Not to comment on, or not to be judgmental on certain aspects. I mean, you have to accept people as they are with their limitations. Of course, if they are your friends, you can definitely guide them. But then commenting, making, or rather laughing at them, that is non-verbal communication when they are speaking. In a classroom situation, I would like to say, let's say there is a class going on, where again a group of students are being seated. Teacher is saying something, and one student has interrupted suddenly, and teacher has asked him to sit down. Another student from behind, he comments and says, sit down, ma'am has said you to sit down. I mean, here this is very rude, and it has led to the loss of around 30 seconds or 1 minute of the class time. So the teacher here, in what she can do is she can call the student outside and tell that child that this is not acceptable, beta. I've already said, when you say something like this, it sounds very rude. You have to share all these things with the children, and with the adults also, within the family also. It is very important. Sometimes, now if I talk about online thing, many people, if you'll see, have a look at on the Facebook, they write such comments without being bothered about how it is going to affect the psyche of the other individual. I mean, praise in public, it is a public forum, praise in public. And if you have to say something, if the person is you already know him, that way you can personally message that person and talk to him that way. So otherwise, simple thumb rule is, as a teacher, as educators, we have a great onus on all of us. We have to tell our children what to do and how to speak. You're swearing in between, using abusive language, though maybe in the group you are using with your friends, you have to be very careful about it. And teachers also have to be very careful about the words that you're using in the classroom. Like your parent has said this thing, no, not at all. You have to be putting a foot down and train your mind in such a way that negative things does not come out of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Ah,
So,
yes, yes.
you have explained it, in a very interesting and very valid way, and I think that our viewers get benefit the kind of insight you given to us. So, thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable time with us and sharing such an insightful, findings about the effective communication. So, before we leave for the day, any last message you would like to give to our viewers and the principals and the other educational fraternity?
Yes, definitely. See, it is very important as a communication as a skill is very important in our life, and each one of us should try to, because as teachers and educators, we have a great onus. We are training the young minds. So with the children, make it a point that yes, everything is you are by action showing in front of the students that communication is very important in their lives. And secondly, have training programs for the students as well, where give them opportunities where they can hone their communication part, give them responsibilities like they can act as giving the maybe the as the head boy or as a head of a particular department. They are giving the messages themselves and check the messages how they have it has been developed. You give them small opportunities, because communication, when once they leave the school, the portals of the school, they are going to reach the world of work. They will get a lot of benefit out of the entire thing that they have learned from the school days itself. Tell them about online communication as well, which is very important, because they don't know how at times some children, they don't know that what they are writing on WhatsApp to a particular child, it is affected them severely.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the lovely message, and thank you to all our viewers for giving us a valuable time. And do comment and share this video. You think that the teachers and the student get benefited from it. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.